first thing I want you to notice is this. Here's your fabric for the skirt, or here's my fabric for the skirt, and here's my selvage. And I want to just take a look at which is the right side and which is the wrong side. Sometimes it's a little hard, but to me, this is the right side and this is the wrong side because of the way the selvage is. This looks like the right side of the selvage. So when you're preparing your fabric to cut, you always are going to want to fold the fabric with the right side on the inside for two reasons. One is when you're going to want to mark things like darts and stuff, you're going to want to be able to mark it directly on the outside, not on the right side. It protects the fabric, keeping the right side on the inside. So always, always, always when you cut, cut with the right side on the inside. And you're going to lay it out like this, with your selvage, selvage to selvage, with your selvage along your length. So this is how it's going to lay out, and then I'm going to take it to the iron and iron it. I'm starting at the top. I have my selvages together, and if you can true the top of your fabric, meaning rip it straight across, rip it straight across. These cottons will mostly rip straight across, okay? And then I'm going to press it. I know some students like to pin their selvages together. Don't do that. You're going to press from selvage towards the fold, and you can use some steam. And this will create a crease in the middle of the fabric. So I'm just going to go along really carefully, lining up my selvages together, smoothing the fabric out, and then pressing towards the fold, okay? Placing my fabric on the table, and if you notice which way I'm placing it with the fold towards my stomach, and make sure it's all smooth. Okay, no lumps, no bumps. It's always good here to make sure that there are no pins or anything. Okay, and now it's properly laid out. These were the skirt pattern pieces that we copied last week. I know you haven't yet, but we'll give it to you. And I'm going to lay it out. Generally, before I pin it down, I just play with the pieces a little bit and figure out how it lays out best. So here's our back, which says we're going to cut 2. And what does our front say? Sit on the fold, because we don't want to seam down our center front. Okay? It doesn't matter on a fabric like this that they're in opposite directions. So you could leave it like this, or if it bothered you on some level, you could place it like that, okay? What I'm probably going to do is place it like this, and then you have one that says interfacing, correct? And you have one that says fabric. Okay, I take my ruler, I measure from the selvage, and it's 8.5 inches there, and it's 8.5 inches there. Once it's equal distance, top and bottom along this line, I throw down my ruler, or I put down my ruler, and I'm ready to pin it, okay? Why don't I fold? So when I'm pinning the pieces, what I do is this. I'm pushing the pins through, and they're capturing the fabric, okay? And what I do to start with is I pin all 4 corners, okay? And after I pin all 4 corners, I'm going to go back and pin halfway. So I'm pinning in the middle. I'm pinning in the middle. Some of you are going to find it's hard to get the pins in because the fabric is very tightly woven. So now my front is pinned, and then I'm just going to repeat the process on the back. Okay, I'm going to pin all 4 corners. And then I'll probably pin halfway. And the same thing goes for the waistband. I'm going to make sure that I'm equal distance from my selvage. Now, on a solid fabric like this, it's not such a horror, but on some fabrics, it would be a real flaw to not have it perfectly lined up. I mean, think of a stripe or some kind of pattern. So that's it. I'm going to pin that. So now all 3 pieces are pinned. You want to open your scissors up wide, and you want to take long, smooth cuts and cut as accurately and carefully on the outside of the fabric as you can. You also don't want to move the fabric, you want to move yourself, okay? You want to keep the fabric laying down as much as possible and not move it. I mean, so you want really nice, smooth snips. You want to get as accurately close to the edge as you can. And you're going to cut all your pieces at the same time. I don't stop to notch or do anything. I just cut. So I make a big pile of all my cut pieces, and this is how I cut everything, okay? So, now that I've cut all the pieces out, I'm going to notch them. So to notch, I use my little scissors because I find them much better, and I'm much less likely to make a big mistake with little scissors. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to cut little snips where my notches are, 3 snips for the arms of the darts, and you want to snip about 1/8 of an inch. And you're just going to go around. Everywhere you find a notch, you're going to notch. So you're going to take all your pieces and make sure all of them get notched where they have notches. Okay. And on the back, there are 2 darts. There are a lot of different ways to mark darts, but I'll show you the way I like to do it. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to slip the carbon paper the right sides of the carbon paper are facing the wrong sides of the skirt. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. So if I take my tracing wheel,
right here.
Okay, thank you. If I take my tracing wheel and I very carefully and slowly mark the 3 arms of the darts, I will get the markings from this, the wax, on both sides of which side of the fabric? The wrong side. You always want it on the wrong side. And what you also want to make sure is you mark the end. See how I'm marking the end? That's important. And you want to do it with a color that's close to your fabric, but that you can see, okay? So here it is, here's the red markings, okay? Pin it, and what do I need to do before I pin it? Make sure it's parallel. And you can just pick, like, this is 3 inches, this is 3 inches, there we go. And only need to cut one of these, right? So you're going to pin it, and you're going to cut it, and then you have all your pieces.